guys, this is Carrie from Artstitution, and I'm doing a quick tutorial to show you guys how to use watercolors and all the variations of watercolors there are out there, along with the variations of paper you could use. So for beginners, there's really not a need to get anything fancy. The thing about watercolors is that you're using water, okay? And I know that's obvious, but when you add water to paper, especially if you add water to regular paper, just regular writing paper, scrap paper, it will buckle and it will basically put a hole right through the paper. Watercolor paper is specially designed thicker, and it's designed to soak in the water. I always have a pencil, and you don't have to be fancy, and I tend to always have an eraser with me. What we did was we drew it all out, okay? And once we were happy with that, we outlined it with a Sharpie. So a pencil and Sharpie is always a must-have whenever I do a watercolor drawing. Especially ones like this, because I love how it's dark and then you can go crazy out of the lines. The black Sharpie's there, it won't come off, it won't smudge. So this is a watercolor of a unicorn that we did. Again, we drew it out with pencil first, and it was a step-by-step drawing tutorial. Then we took our Sharpie, went around with Sharpie, and then we watercolored the rest. And the reason why I like this technique is because it looks really cool to me when you go outside the lines. One of my favorite watercolor techniques is using watercolor markers. Again, you can get these at Michael's. I always use Artist Loft, even with my paint. Artist Loft is great, it's not expensive. So these are great because you can color in just like that, okay? You wanna do that, then you have red on the top of here. All right, you just take your brush and then you just paint it in, and it turns to paint. It's really cool. So there's a certain amount of control that you gotta let go of. That's what's beautiful about it. It makes you let go, which is a good thing. There's these watercolor little cakes like this. Now you could have the really cheap, you know, Crayola ones for kids, and you could totally use that. So with these, you dip your brush into the water, and you'll just wet it because it's just, these are just dry blocks. You have to wet it. And then you kind of go on like that. The less water you use, the darker it is. And the more water you use, the lighter it gets. And as you can see here, it's gonna do its own thing too. So if I just let this go, that's gonna do its own thing. The next thing I'm gonna show you is liquid watercolor. Now liquid watercolor, I put them in these little cups. And I love liquid watercolor. It's very potent. It's almost like egg dye, and you can add water straight into the cup. I like to use them, look how bright they are. So they start off really bright, but as you add water, they get lighter, see? And it's gonna keep on going down. It's gonna keep working its magic even after you walk away. And then you can go further, and like when you dip, you can just drip water into these, and they make these really cool designs, especially when you let it go, do its thing, and you come back and you're like shocked as to what it does. So and then another kind of watercolor are these tubes. You just squirt it right on here, then when you add water to it, like that, and then again you add water. The technique's always the same. The more water you add, the lighter it gets. So those are all the variations of things you can buy. Basically, when I go to Michael's, the rule for me is if you're in the kids craft section, that stuff is cheaper. If you go to where the oil paint is and all that stuff for professionals, then you'll get more expensive. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're starting something new, don't spend a lot of money. I like Artist Loft stuff. It's a middle ground. I hope that made sense, and happy painting. Bye.